You're gonna catch him in West Wareham. JP Noonan's horse. Noonan
Okay,
doesn't really want
thank
it.
you.
I don't know if it's his venture or whose it is, but
But they have no. I don't have a business license.
next time you're down there, we just take a peek.
Yeah. I'll let David know. I'm supposed to do that.
Thanks, Bob. Good evening. It's
That's you.
a minute past 7. We'll call the meeting to order. We have on my left the selectman liaison, Alan Slavin. Michael Fitzgerald serving as our clerk. Mike Baptiste. Co-chair? Or vice chair? What's your
Vice
title?
Chair.
Vice chair. He's in charge of vice. And then to my right, on the far right, is Bob Reed and John Cronin next to me. Have you had a chance to go over any of those minutes? See, I thought we were just gonna adjourn and get out of here, but all these people came in.
Yeah, I showed up at the last minute. Oh, well.
Not a good way to get money from somebody by calling them inept.
Yeah. That is the guy trying to school everybody on everything, right?
Yeah.
So George, we gotta pay your uncle?
Y'all got copies of that?
Which one is this?
That was a lesson that we took.
Oh, Frank?
Read the comments on the bottom.
You crazy?
Mhm.
That'll be an afterday.
Do we have to make a motion to pay that?
I'll make a motion to bill him for our friend. If I could. Kidding me. I'll make friends on different ends.
I meant to contact you last week to see if you wanted to go to Holy Cross, and I got distracted. Did you go?
No.
At the end of the meeting, I'll give you guys an update on County Road from my meetings with the state.
Do you wanna fix it?
I did read about that. I thought that was, did that go to SHPED today?
That was, I did the MOP last week on Tuesday, and I just got information about a half hour ago on what they're gonna do. Sell the house, yeah. You gonna buy some more? You gonna buy some more homes, get the inventory back up? You never know. I know, we never know. You hold off
was, Canning, what's his first name?
Mike.
Progressive Gross?
Or Craig.
That's who came before us, right? Can I get a motion for the May 12th, 2014 minutes?
I'm all set.
You take these individually?
Yeah, please.
You ready?
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting, May 12th, 2014, putting in the name of the Canning Realty applicant, which I think is Craig Canning.
Mm-hmm. So motion, is there a second? Leaves you, Mike. There's only three of us here.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Let's see, three. There's plenty.
Ready for the
Oh,
rest?
that's you. Yep. Next up is May 19th.
I'd like to make a motion to accept and approve the minutes of the meeting for May 19th, 2014 as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, and once again, there was only the three of us here. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. And finally, June 9th, which we had a full board for June 9th.
Make a motion to accept the minutes for June 9th as written.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Very good. We're catching up, little by little. Next item is a discussion with Ryan Career, Bill Madden, GAF Engineering, regarding 650 Main Street. Jim?
Good evening. So, all set to begin?
Well,
It'll take him a little while to set up, but I can sort of give you the intro, which is my purpose of being here.
Please do.
Okay. We're here really at the beginning phase of putting together a project that we think is a rather significant project for the town. And now that we've sort of got it together, we thought it appropriate, especially myself, that we should come before the planning board and give you a preview of what we're looking at, why we're looking at it, and some of the problems that we think we're going to face, and get some type of feedback from the board as to whether they agree that it's the type of project that is worthwhile to pursue, or that there's really not a place for it in town, and it wouldn't have the support of this board. It really attacks a segment of the population that's really being ignored. And in where we've come, especially with the so-called baby boomer generation, is we have people living longer. And not just living longer in terms of years, but actually in terms of staying healthy longer and being productive longer and being able to care for themselves longer and looking to be able to maintain independent living longer. Those people who are wealthy are now being taken care of. There are plenty of facilities being built and scenarios where you buy into rather luxury type apartment complexes, you get a lot of services, and you buy your condominium unit, and at the end of your life you lose that unit, but you've been allowed to live on your rather large pension and know that you're secure. I mean, that segment of the population doesn't really need our help. The other segment of the population that is cared for are those who need assisted living, can get on Medicaid, can get it paid for by the state, and there are plenty of facilities for them. What we're gearing is to those people that are not wealthy, that have worked during their lifetime and may have a small pension, that can afford an apartment and want independent living, but don't have the kind of money that can get them into a place of luxury. So we're creating a senior citizen housing project of about 126 units. And it's geared for those people that can be independent on their own, want that independence, but need something that they can take care of in some place where they can get assistance through direction as to what facilities are available and what services are available that can help them. We've discussed this project with community development. It originally was designed for someplace closer in town. Community development felt that that was not an appropriate place, and we came up with Main Street. This is off of 650 Main Street, and this is an area where they suggested and thought, Sal, that it would be sort of a perfect place for this type of project. So you have the principles here, you have a design here. All of you know Bill Madden. GAF has been doing the engineering. The principals who are working on this to put it together and bring it to fruition are Allied Ventures, which is Ryan Correa, and Calamar Enterprises, which is Chris Trevisani. So both of the principals of the project are here. We fully understand that we're gonna need a couple of variances to make this project work, mainly on density. Our zoning bylaws, there's nothing that I can find that tells me that we've ever taken into consideration senior housing. There's nothing in our provisions. I mean, we have provisions for 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 family homes, and say, you need whatever, 30,000 square feet for the first unit, 14,000 for everything else, et cetera, et cetera. If you were to build a complex of 100 units, you'd be either selling them for $500,000 a piece or renting them out for $3,000 if you went through our calculations for 2 and 3 family homes. We're not looking at playgrounds, senior citizens, adults. They're not looking for a playground. They're not looking for swimming pools. They're not looking for tennis courts. They're looking for access, how to get around town, get to shopping, have a unit that they can take care of. They don't need or want 2,000 or 3,000 square feet of space. How are they going to care for it? They can't afford housekeepers to come in, et cetera. So that's the project that we're looking at. The folks are here. Bill will tell you about the engineering work that's been put together, about the design that's been created, and the owners, developers can certainly answer any further questions. I, for one, know nothing about engineering, but can do the introduction. And we'll be glad to take the project through to zoning. And having sat on zoning and been involved with the town for a lot of years in doing so and appearing before them, I know there was work done to try to get people who are doing projects like this to go before a single board and get site plan done and get their permits permitted by that one board. And I still am a bit confused in town as to whether that works in both directions or not. I know that the zoning board can do site plan if they're also doing a variance or special permit. I've never quite heard whether this board can do a special permit or variance if we're coming before you for site plan and planning work. It's been my experience that the planning and site plan aspect of a project of this size is much better and more efficiently dealt with before a board that's had more experience in the area, and that's the planning board. I think whether projects like this are appropriate for the town and fill a need and fill a void should be something addressed by a planning board rather than a zoning board. And that's why I've suggested that we come here before making this project public and going before any other boards. And you know, to that, we look for some of your input. I know you're not an advisory committee, but you are a planning board. And that's why we're here.
And in the case where they would be doing site plan at the zoning board, we would be making a recommendation, making comment on the plan also.
But I'm correct in assuming that you don't have the ability to grant the permit and to just keep us in front of the zoning board, in front of the planning board.
Correct. We don't have.
You don't have that.
So you want a thumbnail sketch of the engineering elements?
Please.
Okay, just to orientate yourself, we put this building on a little larger scale drawing just so that you get a sense of what we have in the neighborhood. We have Main Street, Route 28, Hathaway Street is up here, small residential subdivision. Roland Thatcher Nursing Home down here on Main Street, 28, APS facility. So basically what we wanted to do is just demonstrate the scale of this project with the scale of other things in the area. we think that the site is suitable to develop in the manner that we, the manner that which we have shown. What we did is we looked at site constraints for Chris. He came to us and wanted us to look at the piece of property, see if there were any constraints there, identify what those constraints were, and also to look at the opportunities for development. In this particular instance, we found many more opportunities than we found obstacles for development. Currently, it's a wooded site, slopes from basically the west to the east, about a 10-foot grade change across the property. There's a small house that's approximately in this area, and if you've driven by Main Street, you've seen that garden that's rototilled, nice and neat in the middle of the field, so that's down in here someplace. So what we did is we looked at the existing structure. We know that we'll have to go before the Historical Society to have that structure removed. It's over 50 years old, so we need to carry up.
75 now.
75 now? Okay, well, we need to go before then. We applied the zoning bylaw to the site development in that we kept the required buffer zones, landscape buffers between residential and commercial use. We consider this a commercial use. We were able to do that pretty readily. We have a railroad behind us, Main Street in the front, and wetlands and Stony Brook further to the east. We looked at the water supply requirements. There's a water main of adequate size in Main Street that we're able to tie into. We proposed to bring 6 or 8 inch service into the site, provide a fire hydrant on the site, as well as fire protection for the building. So there'll be an element of fire protection associated with the building. Excuse me. We also looked at the availability for natural gas. Natural gas is available within 500 feet of the site, does not pass by the site right now. That would be the fuel source that we'd be looking at to heat the building and what have you. Also, the electric power does come by the street, and we haven't been able to ensure from the provider what the service actually consists of out there. We haven't really determined what our connected load will be for the building as of yet. We've also been in contact with the sewer department. I've sent a written request to Guy Campina. We think that the sewer flows per day will be about 18,300 gallons a day for this site. There's a 6-inch force main that comes down Main Street, originates at the Springborn pump station down by Toby Road. We plan to put a sewage ejector station down at the lower end of the site and pump into that force main. We just need to we need to select our pumping system so that we'll overcome the pressure in that main. And also, we would look into coordinating our controlling system of our pumps with that of the town's pumping sequence. If the need came that we needed to provide some flow equalization tanks down in there to compensate for the peaks and when we're going to pump, we would be planning on doing that as well. We're going to need to work with Guy closely on that. We know that there's a little bit of engineering associated with that, but it's actually very, very doable. With respect to wetlands, in 2007, there was a filing made with Conservation that identified the BBW in the riverfront area associated with the Stony Run Brook. And I'm working with Dave Pichette in getting that information. We relied on that previous filing for this conceptual planning. So we know where that wetland boundary was. We know where our 200-foot riverfront area is. We know that a portion of our work is going to be in that 200-foot riverfront area, but we think that we're able to do what we're able to do within the framework of the regulations the way they're written right now. It's on the the state level, and I think even on local Concom. We're keeping all of our drainage on site. We've scoped out what we would need for drainage. Since the entire site slopes from the west to the east, it made it fairly easy to develop a series of catch basins and manholes in the form of a collection system and discharge them to a couple of sediment bays from one half of the site, the other half of the site, and then have a large retention pond in the center then we would overflow any excess flows or pre-development flows from the detention pond out into to the neighboring wetlands. So we'd be matching our pre-development flows. There'd be no increase in the rate or the volume of runoff leaving the site. Once we get into it and look at things a little more closely, we'd like to add as many elements of low-impact development techniques, rain gardens, and bioretention areas. We think that we're able to do that, particularly up in this, up here, and even down here in some of these other isolated areas. So maybe we'll have an opportunity to break up some of these flows and not direct all of our stormwater to one location. I mean, we use the old school mentality on this, just pipe it to where we know we can store it and know where we can release it for pre-development numbers. But we'd like to enhance that a little bit more in the design process. But that's where we are right now with it. We show 180 parking spaces. There's 3 other buildings that would be parking garages. They're just open garages, small garages for single cars. We collect all of our roof runoff. We're going to take all that and just recharge it directly to the ground. That'll be considered uncontaminated. So we want to separate that stormwater from the collection system stormwater. And those are really the basics of what we did. We were able to fit the site, the building on the site. Site accommodates it fairly well. We just want to look at a little more geotechnical work as it comes about with if the design proceeds, which we expect it to that level, and then we'll be able to fine-tune our grading in our site plan. Right now, we have a net import for fill on the site. We'd like to make it a balanced job, minimize what we can bring in, keep the construction costs as reasonable as we can on the site side of things. Will help Calamar with their pricing for the units and help make the project as attractive as we can. I mean, fill is pretty expensive, so we're looking to try to do something with that. But it's pretty early in the game now, and I think we know what we have to work toward to get that reduction in line. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions.
Is this a ownership type unit or rental?
It is designed as a rental unit.
Deed restricted or
Age restricted,
age restricted only, no 40B component or?
no 40B component.
How big is the site?
You know, with the,
Say it again.
It's 6.5 acres.
How many people own the site now?
Currently 1.
It's the one.
Yes.
Whoever owns that house that you're gonna take out is the owner?
Correct.
On the east side, Bill, that's all wetlands, it's non-buildable down there, right? All down there?
The wetland boundary, you can almost see it here. It looks like it just follows this row of, those are pine trees, and then it gets down into this red maple swamp. So I think the line's up there.
Yeah, I guess my question would be, this project gets built, everything drains around to the front where you're gonna, catch it, and then it would drain out into the existing wetlands. There's no buildable property that we're gonna have another owner in here shortly saying they're draining their water into the wetlands and it's flooding me. There's no buildable property below it, correct? Do you know?
There is not.
What was that?
There's no buildable.
Right in the swamp.
Well, you said you had a couple of buildings that looks out back that you're gonna just put, like carports, and, yeah, there, and then is there one down the front? Now, you said you had 180 spots, you figured 180 parking spaces?
That was the plan that we were given to work with. I know that the regulations call for one per unit, I believe, but not really certain that, at least in my mind, that that's an adequate number of parking. I've just seen over my years.
Okay, without, I'm only asking you, Bill, 'cause I can't remember the parking thing off the top of my head, but I didn't think it was 1 per unit. It was like usually 1.5, but we'll look that up. And what is it, guys, you have 122 units Counselor, is that?
126.
122.
122, I'm sorry, 122.
122,
Yeah.
126, and 180, so it's 60 spots more, it's that. I'd have to look at the parking, the number doesn't sound equal to me, Lenny, I'd have to look at that one.
I think we took a look at that, and the distinction is age restricted. I think when you get into age restricted only, it goes to 1 per unit.
That's, okay.
And
all right.
that's my recollection. I think what you're thinking of is the general, if it's 2 bedrooms, it's 1.5 units or something. But I think when you're dealing with senior citizens, it's 1 per unit.
Okay, it could be. So I get then my next question on it is 1, okay, and under the senior citizen?
Or elderly,
For
yes.
elderly, okay, thank you. So for that then, if you have 122 or 126 units, you have 180 spots, that's 60 parking spaces. What was that figured for, you know?
I would think that would be for visitors and, you know, we're looking at elderly that we consider to be independent. And that may mean that in some of the larger units, there'll be 2 people with 2 different vehicles.
Okay.
You know, we're not ruling that out. This is not, you know, we're not looking at this as invalids.
Okay. And that was gonna lead me to the next question for your owners is out of the 120 some odd units, how many stories are we talking down here, Bill? Is it 2-story, 3-story?
3 stories.
So you got an elevator going in, or how many elevators?
2 elevators.
2 elevators. So, what are the size of the units? In other words, you have like a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, or?
We do have all of that. Chris can give you the information as to the breakdown of what the plan is. This is not, so that you know, the first building that Chris has put up
Oh, no,
for
I
this
was
purpose.
just asking how many, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm just sticking with parking, so if we're going with, if you have a 1-bedroom and they get a parking space, and then you have a 2-bedroom or 3, whatever the case may be, I'm just thinking they might have 2 cars, which leads me to that general unit that, you know, what is the age, 55 and over?
That's the age restriction, yes.
Okay, so, you know, you get a couple my age or whatever, and they each got a car, that's 2, you know, so that cuts into that 60 spots of visitors, what have you. That's just me thinking, all the years on zoning, it was always the parking that was the issue. It was never the amount of, you know, I want 40 units on, I think, okay, where do you park them? And I think actually one time, Bill, you were one of them, they were gonna use the street as parking, and that just never works out. Never, the overflow never works out. So all I care is number 1, my personal opinion, it's probably a good thing, but the parking is always the issue. And if Bill says that he can get the drainage to stay on there, I'm sure he can. The sewer issues, Mr. Chairman, I'll give my 2 cents, listening to sewer issues for years and years on zoning, and then as a selectman in the past years has gone by. Sewer was always an issue to tie into it. I know some of the developers that have tied into it have had to increase pump stations and fix pumps and what have you. Others have paid through the nose to per unit, and that would be an interesting, I'd like to see how that works out for you.
I can tell you that in my dealings with Guy, in terms of my representation of the mobile home parks in town, is that when servicing the elderly, it's the best bang for the buck in the sewer industry for the town of Wareham, because elderly folks tend to use a very small portion of the allotment for each unit, and yet they're paying for a much greater allotment than what they're using on the minimal basis. So that's been the direction that I've been given when dealing again with the mobile home parks, which I tend to get involved with a lot in town.
Okay.
That's the comment that I get from Guy in terms of the usage issues.
Do you have anything to compare it with in the same market, the same price point?
In the same market, well, to maybe take a little bit of a step back, we're in the senior housing business, Calamar Enterprises, and We have 11 properties throughout the United States currently built and occupied. We have 5 projects in western New York in the Buffalo, Syracuse, Corning market. And then we have 6 developments in the Midwest, in Kansas, Nebraska, and Missouri. So we've opened up an office in North Andover, and we have 2 projects under construction up in New Hampshire. And then then maybe a potential other one for this particular market. But all rental developments, all similar in size. To answer your question, the size of the units, the 1 bedroom start at 625 square feet, and they range in various sizes in terms of a tub, a walk-in shower. We've learned from our residents doing 11 or 12 of these now that the certain intricacies of bathrooms, where to put the handicap units, where to put the handicap spaces, where to put the entrances, how to park, circulate the parking throughout so you have direct access to all the first floor units, where to put the elevators, where to put the access to the elevators. So we've learned a lot of things as we've gone along from similar projects. Although there's nothing in this market, within a 20 or 30 minute drive to go see what we do, but we've incorporated kind of previous designs into what you're seeing tonight.
Could you give him the answer to John's question in terms of the different units?
Oh, right. Sure. Right now, what we have is a mix of 1 and 2 bedrooms only, and the footprint you see now is 35 1 bedrooms and 87 2 bedrooms. That's the general mix, and we do have some 2 bedrooms that are relatively small in terms of size. They're 800 square feet, so they're 2 bedrooms. But our experience is it's more of a 1 person who wants that separate room for a hobby, sewing room, computer, or some other type of use. So although it's a 2 bedroom, it's typically occupied by 1 person.
Are all the units on one, is each unit on 1 floor?
Yes.
Mr. Bello, you mentioned services. Are there gonna be any services inside of the structure?
The inside of the structure, there's going to be some community spacing that will be accessible to all of the units. And there's going to be a coordinator, a full-time lifestyle.
Call him a lifestyle coordinator.
Lifestyle coordinator. And the focus of that person is really to advise and provide information as to available services that are local, or answer some of the needs that people have when they're alone and don't really know, where to turn to.
So each unit will have its own kitchen set up and,
Yes.
okay. I didn't know when you mentioned services, if you were offering the food services and laundry services and things of that nature in the
No.
building.
No, it's not an assisted living scenario, it's
And you talk-
independent living.
You talked about age 55 and older. In your agreements, do you restrict adult children living with residents? Do you restrict grandchildren living with residents? How does your agreements read?
Typically, we rely on either state or federal statutes in terms of the Fair Housing Act. So, we can't discriminate against protected classes. So we rely on, the 55 or over, or 62 and over restrictions, and rely on.
So
Rely on
I
that.
don't know what those are, so how are those written in Massachusetts? I assume you've researched that by now.
Yeah, the 55 and 62 and over, it's the head of the household, but they do restrict children under 18, so you cannot have school-age children living in the facility.
Okay, but children over 18 and grandchildren over 18 can live in the facility with their...
They can.
So, and you mentioned transportation. Is there something special about this site with respect to getting to stores or getting out?
I think it's just generally where it's located, so it's less than a couple of miles to the downtown Crossing Mall. It's less than a couple of miles to the downtown area distance is to get onto Cranberry Highway. My assumption is that if this project were to go forward, that GATRA would be more than willing to come down and make a stop at this facility in order to get people locally where they need to go. But there was certainly some pushback from community development about putting the project right downtown. They did not want the project downtown. They didn't
How are
feel
you
that
doing
was
with
appropriate.
community development? Do they have any funds to help you out?
I don't think they've been asked for any funds. I don't think that's really our issue at this point. Again, when I got involved with this project, it was my suggestion that those people in town that play a part in projects of this nature ought to be advised of what we're looking at and seeing if we could get their support and their input. I mean, if they felt that there was a valid reason for something to be someplace else, or if you were to avoid certain terminologies, we're receptive to making it work.
Well,
Sometimes
it would certainly change the landscape in that side of that end of Main Street. So I would imagine it would not be without controversy when it comes to the public hearing.
When you talk about occupants, is it fair to say that they're gonna come from all over, or is it gonna be restricted to the community that the project is built within?
I don't think that you can restrict things to a locale. I think it would be anybody that fit the criteria of adult housing. They would be able to rent there if that was the housing area that they want. And generally, I would think it would be local people, because they tend to want to live in the area that they're familiar with, not go to some other area of time.
Would you consider an age restriction that was more strict than the state guideline?
I don't know that we're permitted to do that. Traditionally, the state determines that 55 is retirement communities or adult communities. That age may grow as time goes on. Certainly, as I've aged with a number of the people sitting up here, 55 is no longer old to me. So, I think if I had my druthers and I could do it, I think that I would be looking more towards the 62. And I'm sure that's something we'll look into. But as best as I know, we're not allowed to make those determinations.
I can share with the board that of the 11 communities we have up and running, the average age of our tenant is 72 years old. And they're still, some are still working, some are volunteering in the community, so it's, it's not a mix of.
I'm more concerned with Michael's question and the grandchildren moving in, or the kids moving back in. Pretty soon you've got, some 20-year-olds running around. And,
Well, I can tell
I don't
you
know why
that
you couldn't write it for 55, period. In other words, you're not permitting an occupancy by people younger than that. I don't think the statute sets a minimum, but I don't think it would preclude you from doing it across the board.
Well, let's tell you the practical issues that come to play is the 56-year-old gentleman that marries a 53-year-old lady.
Or
And
younger.
you now say that he doesn't qualify to live there. The 72-year-old that needs his son, who's 48, to come live with him in order to get him to the doctors and to make his appointments and he gets a letter from the doctor that says that you know, it's for health reasons that he needs his son or grandson to live with him. You can't prevent a guest from occupying the household, and a guest, and again, I'll go back to mobile home parks, because that's what I'm most familiar with and have to deal with on a regular basis. They determine a guest as somebody who is not living there for more than 90 consecutive days. So if they're there for 60 days and they move out for 2 and they move back in, they're still considered a guest, and I can't regulate them. So we have, those are practical issues, but it certainly doesn't affect the majority of the people either in a mobile home park or in an apartment or adult housing like this.
Yeah, but you could exclude spouses, you could include people in a medical kind of a situation. I mean, you can define guests much more narrowly. It just seems to me that you're gonna have a problem.
I think my question is, you currently operate 11 facilities.
Hmm?
You know exactly who lives there, I'm sure. You can give us this information,
Again, I mean, the average age is 72, and we're not seeing any.
but I mean, how many, you know, of the units that, you know, I live alone and all of a sudden I have an occupant, someone living with me. You must know that, because I'm sure you monitor that. And I have to imagine
We do,
even in
and-
leases, you may
and-
even charge extra for that.
Well, in some instances where, New Hampshire, for example, their statute, you can restrict 62 and over, and 100% of the occupants need to be over 62. You can't have anyone under 61 living in the facility. So our leases have that provision where we evict people if we find anyone living there, not as a guest, under 61, or under 62, I mean. So it varies from state to state, so, but even that, in New York, where we have a 55 and over restriction, in some of the Midwest, the lifestyle and the building itself and the common areas, it's provides a social setting for seniors. I mean, the one bedrooms are 625 square feet. They're very small. It's not accommodating for 2 people to live in. And the 2 bedrooms are also, 800 square feet. We don't have large units, so they're not conducive to some of the things you're referring to. So they somewhat self-police themselves and are not really marketable to a younger generation. It truly is an independent senior social lifestyle.
And it seems to me that if the law will allow us, it would be to our advantage to only have 55 or 62-year-olds residing there. I mean, that's why people go to adult living situations, is because they don't really want to have children running around the corridors or bicycles or balls being thrown. And the only thing that prevents you from doing that is when the state or federal government enacts a regulation that prohibits you from doing it. So, again, I know my experience, as I've said, is with mobile homes, but mobile homes have a unique law that applies to them that does not necessarily apply to adult apartment dwellers. So that certainly would be something that, I'm sure I'll end up getting involved with as time goes on and seeing what we can do, but it's not like that's what we're hoping for. I mean,
Right.
we're
Well, I
certainly
just think
not.
it's a concern, and it's a concern for, at least for me, representing the town. I'm sure you're gonna try to control it. As a landlord, you always wanna have good handles on what's going on in your property, but.
Yeah, and like Attorney Bella said, we will impose whatever strictest regulations we can, provided we don't violate federal fair housing.
I think it plays into the parking question of John, too. I think, you're talking about 126 units, and if they're mostly occupied by one individual, that does leave you a good buffer of parking spaces, but if all of a sudden you find that 30% of your units now have a second occupant, or a third, or however that works, and you can't control it, now parking becomes an issue.
No, except that you certainly can control the number of cars per unit.
Right.
I mean, there's no question that you have the ability to assign spaces to particular units.
Right.
And if a unit, even for the week, has 4 people living in it, doesn't mean they're allowed 4 cars on the premises.
And what are the rent levels in this?
Preliminary, we're shooting for somewhere around 1,100 for a 1-bedroom, up to 1,350 for a 2-bedroom.
On your other facilities, just out of curiosity, how many units are in the other facilities? Like you said, you have 11 properties.
They're all within the, I want to say 110 to 140 dwelling units. That's the size that we're comfortable with based on our staff. We have a lifestyle coordinator. We like that lifestyle coordinator to know everyone's name. We like that lifestyle coordinator to be able to notice different behaviors. If someone's acting a little sluggish or something, they can react.
So that coordinator is there during the day, there's no maintenance or management person during the evenings?
What that maintenance person or lifestyle coordinator does is we hire a third party, local third party management staffs for maintenance, HVAC and things like that, and we're on 24 hours.
So I mean, it'll come during the hearing and all. I'm just going to ask why I'm sitting here. There's 100 and some odd units, and someone's faucet's broken or lights are out or something. Is there someone?
Yeah, there's a 24-hour number to call.
Or is it going to be all kinds of complaints to the town hall that the maintenance man's only here Fridays?
It's not, and actually just beginning of this year, we unrolled more of a technical maintenance schedule where there's an iPad in the common areas. So if anyone has a maintenance problem, they click on the iPad, click their dwelling unit number, and write down what the issue is. That immediately gets emailed to the maintenance person, and we all know, all the managers know when that request came in, and he has 24 hours to fix it. So,
On the 11 existing properties, could you run through maybe the lot sizes on those properties? You mentioned a 110 unit property, a 140 unit property. Can you give us some ballpark ideas of those sizes? And if you can't right now, I would like it confirmed.
sure. I can tell you at least the recent ones that we did get approved is the one in Bedford, New Hampshire. It was a 11-acre parcel, but we subdivided into 2 pieces. So 4 acres was for commercial, and the balance of the site, around 7 acres, was for 116 dwelling units. Londonderry, New Hampshire, I want to say it was around 12 acres for 110 dwelling units, but that one had a significant amount of wetlands, so I say the developable portion was probably similar to 6.5 acres. The one in one we're going through right now in Stoughton, Massachusetts, it's a 12-acre parcel, 126 dwelling units, but again, 4 acres of that is wetlands, so they're all under 10 acres.
How far along are you in Stoughton?
We're going to town meeting in May.
Whereabouts in Stoughton?
On Pleasant Street.
So what's the zoning in this district now?
Oh, no, where? Somewhere 30.
And you're looking for a variance?
We would certainly need a density variance. You'd need that wherever you put this project in town. And because some of the units are designed at 625 square feet, I think our zoning bylaw requires 650 square feet as the minimum apartment size. So we'd need a variance on that.
What, 25 feet?
25 feet. But, then there's common spaces that
Right,
apply
it's less
to
than
all
that.
of the units that probably would theoretically make up that 25 feet for those 26 units, but, the idea there is, and we've discussed it in terms of making units bigger. If you make them bigger, you make them more expensive, and there are a lot of people out there that don't want to take care of a bigger unit. They're not looking for that. They're looking.
They might want that garden though.
They may want the garden, and I think there are some plans to have outdoor seating and outdoor garden and, you know, that type of thing. Certainly, you know, there'll be space for that.
One other question, just looking, Bill, on the west side, I guess, there's residences up behind there. What is you said you'll meet all the buffer zones there? I know you have your drive going down, and you have.
This right here?
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
that strip there, you've got plenty of buffer to, I don't know, I mean, it looks to me like there's houses or something back there,
There are, yeah.
I'd have to take a peek, but enough so that, what do you have, 20 feet, 30 feet?
They're showing 20 feet there, and there's a grade change there also, so there's a slope that would be down to our site.
Okay.
So the housing would be elevated a little, the neighboring property would be elevated a little bit higher than our site.
Okay.
But
And then, I mean, again, it'll come up later, but landscaping or what have you, I'm not really worried about the railroad, and then the wetlands down the other side doesn't seem to be a problem. Looks like you're 50, 60 feet, whatever, in from the street. I would just be concerned that any building lighting or what have you, that in that back area towards those residences, you could put some shrubbery or trees or whatever, better landscape. I'm sure when the time comes,
Yeah, exactly.
we'll get there, but that's about all I'm thinking.
So you're looking at about 80,000 total square feet? Is that about right?
This right here,
For the building?
44,000, I think, was for the footprint of the building.
For the footprint, but it's 3 stories.
Mhm.
You said 3 stories?
So the area,
So it'll be like 120,000.
the area in the V, down there, that's gonna have a retention pond in it?
This right here?
Yeah,
Yes.
so that's not really available we're not planting gardens in the retention pond.
Well, we think that what we really do, we massage the numbers a little bit and really get into it all. We're hoping that we can add some spaces here, maybe free up some more into this corner. That's the focal point from the main entrance, so that's part of our thought process. And I think Chris also said that he likes to have things associated with each wing of the building, so those are things that we would work on once we get into the design scenario.
Like some picnic benches or what have
Exactly,
you, and
yeah.
stuff like that, yeah. Bill, I'm just gonna ask you, when you had mentioned you would bring drainage around from both sides towards the front, are you gonna have any, like, almost, I don't know what the grades are with the water, but maybe some of those, detention basins, whatever, where it could be some landscaping on top, in other words, a drain, you know?
Yeah, rain garden type of setup.
Instead of a pond, you know what I mean? You put
Yes.
the baffles in, whatever, you get some water, but you'd be able to utilize some space, a little sitting in, whatever. I don't know, I'm not a designer, I'm just asking.
But making it, well, those are all part of the design type of things, but you always try to incorporate a landscape feature into the drainage. Now you do. I mean, it's not like the old days where we did exactly what I'm showing on the plan. I just wanted to make sure that we had the volume in the area that we needed for the drainage. So we did a block calculation. It told me what I needed. And we put it in there now. If we get into our detailed drainage design, we're able to break up and disconnect some impervious areas from others and, take advantage of every design strategy you can to reduce the amount of water that goes down to the drainage basin is what we would be doing.
The only thing that strikes me from a layout standpoint would be they may be looking for a secondary egress to the site. And I don't know what you're looking at for traffic counts, but that's gotta be, say, 122 units, it's,
Could that be almost 2 entrances, Bill? Could you, where you show the parking pulling in off the street, and then the lot actually goes all the way around and then back, and then you see how it turns? Couldn't you just shoot that? Could you do another one out to the road there? Even if it was, just one way for that one.
Or grass over gravel or something like that, gated type of thing.
Well, I'm just thinking, I think Chairman's point is a good one. That might be kind of tight maybe if you just curious. I was thinking that myself, to be honest with you. Why wouldn't you just make that another entry, you know, in and out, whatever, but I think that's a good point.
Yeah, we're looking at it for sure. It's a good idea.
Chris,
So emergency egress out through the Penn Central line.
Well, that's another thought too. I mean, you might
Get a train stop?
there may be gravel.
Yeah.
There is crushed stone next to the railroad track. And
That would be a
I don't think
difficult,
they'd be
that'd be a
happy with
difficult
that.
spot to get to, no matter how you slice it.
Oh, we have the
No
equipment
train
in
would
town?
stop there, though.
No.
Chris, can you
And
talk
had
about
problems
the
with cars and
construction,
trains
the,
recently.
kind of the normal type of construction? Is this a wood frame structure, or
Yeah,
do you have
that's-
certain requirements because of age restrictions of occupants?
What we do is it's 3-story stick frame, slab on grade, and the entire building is sprinklered.
Yeah.
And we build every single unit ADA adaptable. And then per code and per request, we can convert those to ADA accessible.
And do you have a certain style that you've found most of the towns appreciate as far as the exterior appearance of the building?
Yeah, I mean, we do vinyl siding for maintenance reasons. We use at least 2 different tones, you know, to break up, you know, certain elevations and accent certain pieces of the architecture. But, you know, in the Midwest, we use a little bit more, you know, sandstone. In New England, it's a little bit more, you know, we add more cupolas and things that are more traditional you see in New England architecture. So we do keep an eye on what fits within a community.
Along with the Howard Johnson's roof. Well, time frame? When you're thinking gonna spring the, still up in the air?
I think we're prepared as soon as, you know, we figure out which direction we're going in terms of the approval process. We're prepared to start construction this year.
But I mean, I was thinking more, when do you wanna when are you planning to start your approval process?
I mean,
I think this is our first step, and, you know, if you guys sort of say that, you know, it looks like something that could be useful in town and that would, might be able to work, then we're prepared to put it together and start requesting variances on the 2 issues that we need. If you see, you know, some other type of variance that we require, we're receptive to that also, but the 2 that I'm aware of is the density and size of the apartment, as I understand it,
Mm.
meeting the other setback requirements, et cetera.
You don't see anything else, Bill? Just the density, drainage and all, you'll be able to come up with all that, everything will work out?
Yeah, I think from the engineer point of view, there wasn't really anything that was a showstopper in our mind, you know. We know that we need to work with conservation, and that's our main objective right now, is to get that work taken care of first and advance the project from there.
Okay.
I mean, my initial concern was, you know, is it marketable, is it sustainable? But it sounds like he's got enough experience with this arrangement to know that it is, or he wouldn't be building it in the first place.
Pretty good size investment if you don't think it's gonna work. I don't know that there's anything.
And even though it's not restricted per income, it wouldn't preclude anybody that's subsidized from living there, correct? Or I don't think you can, really.
I don't think you can either.
The answer to that is no, it wouldn't.
No, it wouldn't. We're not gonna wind up with South Shore housing down here, though, are we?
Certainly not our design.
Okay. Yeah, I think of that myself, where I myself think it's a needed thing in the town. I don't know if you'll get that many units, that's all down the road, but personally, I think it'd be a good thing. But then again, I thought, some of the 40Bs and the different things that came along over the past several years were good things. And I listened to, well, she's no no longer there, but the lady that was at the housing over on, yeah, exactly. Oh, we have hundreds of people in Wareham that need units, and it turned out that the 40Bs went to all outside people through these agencies, because there was no one in Wareham that could meet it. So, I also am of the firm belief that I think these units would be nice if the Wareham people were qualified and could get them first, but I also know that community development gets involved and all these state monies get involved. The next thing you know, you've got very nice people, don't get me wrong, but they're coming from Quincy, they're coming from Falmouth, they're coming from Plain or wherever to wind up.
I think one of the big distinctions to be drawn, and probably one of the main reasons you're not hearing us come in and talk 40B stuff, is these are rentals. This is not a builder coming in, throwing up a nice facade, selling it at affordable rates, and then disappearing to another part of the state to do it again, not caring what happens 3 years later. I mean, the intention is certainly to build something of quality. The owner is going to be the person that continues to own it now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and it only becomes successful if people want to rent in it and the quality is good and it's kept up. That's very different than when somebody comes in and builds a housing project and throws the houses up and then leaves. And I know, again, sitting on the zoning board when we dealt with 40B projects and so many affordable houses, and you know, you later sort of find out that those affordable houses are thrown up with press board and not plywood, and you know, there's 6 inches of insulation and not 8 inches of insulation. That's why they can sell them for $140,000. And then the big problem is, who do you sell them to after the first guy leaves? Because nobody fits the criteria and nobody wants it at that point. And I've seen that debate up here in front of the selectmen on a couple of major issues and cases that have gone on and on. But that's not what we're doing. So, you know, this is strictly apartment. It's not to be condominiumized. We're not trying to sell units. We're not trying to come in and, you know, sell stuff and get out of town and disappear.
There is a complex similar in nature to this over in Marion, over by the old Marconi Tower, and I can't think of the name of the complex, but it seems like a pretty good arrangement for its tenants as well as its management team.
I know in my practice, I find more and more people who are 65, 70 years old, they're alone, their spouses died, they have nowhere to go, they don't want to go live with their kids, and they're not destitute.
Mm-hmm.
But they, you know, they need a place to go.
This is where I hang out the disclaimer that the opinions voiced at this board may not necessarily be that of the ZBA.
Personal opinions.
I think one of the other things that I'd like to know more about is your agreements, written agreements with your contractors, the people that will be doing the exterior maintenance, the snow plowing. You have a history with that. I'd like to know how that's handled and to make sure that you do have a great handle on it, and that 10 years from now when the building starts to show a little wear and tear, it's not gonna, look like it's not really well taken care of. So I'm sure you must have agreements in place that
Sure,
I'd like
absolutely.
to see some of that information.
Yeah, we have our own management company.
I mean, it protects you, but I think it's also would be good for the town to see.
Alan?
If the board will allow me, it's a little bit out of your purview, just so they don't keep spinning wheels. Sorry. As a sewer commissioner, when Walmart came in, they had to do mitigation because the Springborn pump station was paid for, the upgrade by A.D. Makepeace, and that was paid for future development for A.D. Makepeace, for the capacity. You're gonna have to find out whether or not there is really capacity left at the Springborn station in order to hook up. Just so you understand, Walmart actually paid a mitigation of $100,000 for 10,000 gallons a day in order to go into that facility to maintain and do any upgrade work. You're talking about wanting to use double that amount, so there's probably gonna be something going on with that. Because the station, that pump station itself
Well, that
is
It wouldn't be
limited.
flowing to that station, it would be tying into the force main from that station.
But if it's gonna work through the Springborn, it's gonna be a
I'm
problem.
sure there's some mitigation to do, but
Yeah, that's what happened with Walmart, which is the same basic area when you get down.
But at this point, they'd be dealing with you as the sewer commissioners, not Walmart.
Actually, time-wise, they won't be dealing with me either, because it'll be just a sewer commissioners by that time, May 1st. But just so you know, that if Guy has given you the impression this capacity, the capacity really has to be based on what that station, that particular pump station can handle, and what the prior commitment is that's been guaranteed ahead of time. And Makepeace has some major projects still there.
We're not discharging, we're,
I understand, but if you're gonna use the Springborn facility, that Springborn facility is involved with it, that has a limited capacity, what it does, that's all I'm getting at. And Makepeace did actually pay for the whole upgrade of that facility, with the understanding that we would provide a certain amount of capacity. And that was done a couple boards ago. Thank you.
well, if there's nothing further, any
No,
other questions, do you have anything for us?
I don't believe so.
And for my own take is, I know it's a big change for that area, or it would be for any area that goes in, but it looks like something that the marketplace could use. So, done right, I don't think it would adversely affect the area.
No, but I've talked to Ryan before, I don't see, there's really no downside to the project as long as it fits all the criteria.
Well, if we're all set, I'd like to thank you for at least entertaining us. I wasn't really sure that this was something that you do on a regular or normal basis, to have somebody come up at this stage of their development. But I just thought, having been in town for 30 years, that it's the appropriate thing to do, so.
As George says, this particular board will have to make recommendations to the ZBA anyway, so it certainly doesn't hurt, it helps.
Communication is always good.
Absolutely. Very good, thanks.
Thanks for coming in.
All right, appreciate it.
Concept and the need is here. The thing is, it's not gonna do anything in town.
Oh, I thought we adjourned, I'm sorry. Next on the agenda is a A&R proposal from Bay Point Country Club.
Good evening, gentlemen. Tom Furtado with the Bay Point Club. Several weeks ago, we submitted a Form A approval not required application for 4 lots suitable for 2-family residences on Onset Avenue. And the zoning is, it's in the MR30 zone. And you'll see that the plan complies with all of the requirements of that MR30 zone for 2-family homes, most significantly 45,000 square feet with 200 feet of frontage. So Mr. Principe is here, he's the engineer. If you have any questions regarding the plan or...
I do. Mr. Chairman, can I ask a couple of questions on the gate here, please?
Certainly.
Oh, sorry, Bob.
Sean, you need a job, man.
I think I got one today, I'm not sure. But anyway, I've heard a lot about this. I was at one preliminary time when they came in for something down at the golf course, whatever, but can you walk me through this plan a little bit? Where are these 4 lots with the houses? What?
Sure, yeah, Mr. Principe can explain it, but they all front Onset Avenue.
All right, so I'm looking at the plan for Onset Avenue, yeah?
Okay, so, if you were heading up Onset Avenue past the former service station. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the name. Lacasse, there you go. After Lacasse, and then proceeding for 800, 1,000 feet roughly, towards, as you're heading towards the main entrance to the Bay Point Club, the four individual lots will be on the left-hand side.
Can I ask you a question? I don't know exactly how to ask about zoning, but I see that you're gonna have to relocate some holes, some golf course holes.
Yes.
And I know at one point in time, you mentioned to me that your golf course had to be a par of 70 or 71 or something. So are you gonna shrink these holes down so they become par threes, or what are you doing so that these then stay playable?
Yeah, no, the only hole that's affected is the number 10 hole now. And that part of the golf course, the redesign of several of the holes on the golf course done by the golf course architect includes this hole. So this is a par 3 and is going to remain a par 3. Is actually likely going to get a little bit longer than it is today. That was part of our original plan and continues to be to move that green.
Okay, and then the next hole where the tees are being affected, must be hole number 11, I guess.
Yes,
So you're just gonna move them?
they're going to shift up and over to the left if we will, but it'll remain a par 4. That will not affect the par.
So, I guess my question is, so in order for these lots to be approved or entertained for approval, should the golf course reconstruction be done first? In order so that you adhere to your requirements of your golf course restrictions?
Well, I don't believe so. We're required per our zoning for the golf course to have the par 70,
Right.
which will remain in place.
But-
So as we do, what we're here today is for the construction, for the approval to establish the 4 individual lots. Certainly before any construction's done on, let's say, lot number 2 there, the green would be moved over.
I question why this isn't part of the site plan review for the overall property. You know, why is this being submitted separately when you have a,
Well, the zone, it's an MR30 zone, and we were instructed by the board that that was a different zone and not part of the conference recreation zone that the remainder of the golf course is in. So we had to comply with the MR30 requirements for that section. So we did not seek any zoning relief on these MR30 on these MR30 lots, simply to create them per the MR30 zone.
But the MR30 only goes back 150 feet, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah, it goes back X feet, and then a little bit of it in the back is, encroaches on the other part. Mr.
Correct.
Pritzby can
For
explain.
the zoning circle, we need a 100-foot radius zoning circle, so the minimum depth of the property is 200 feet. So a majority, 75% of the lot is inside the MR30 zone, and the actual duplex structure will be within the MR30, excuse me, MR30 zone.
But that dotted line that I see kind of at the 11th tee, middle of 11th tee, is that the end of the MR30 zone, or is it the other dotted line? It's this lighter one, it's the lighter one, correct?
Correct. Yes, it's the line that runs parallel with Onset Avenue,
Okay,
which follows the rear property line of the adjacent abutters to the east, which is lot 5, Christine Lopes.
yes. Which is a single-family residence?
Correct.
Yes. Those are, it's an MR30 zone, but there's several homes there that are in 15,
Substandard.
that have 15,000 square foot lots, and that zone line seems to run right along the back.
Squinting at the zoning bylaw, what does it say about lots that are in 2 different zones?
Well, Well, I believe we spoke with the attorney, Rich Cirque, about that. And again, in my general practices in other towns, it's typically the zone that is the, in the most highest percentage of the property. So again, we have 75% of this property, majority of the property that is lying within the MR30 zone. So it would take that zone, but also we cannot put the structure within that CR zone line, which is in the rear quarter of the property, which we don't intend to. All of these duplexes are gonna be within the front portion of the property, and then they're actually gonna be landscaped. We haven't done the site design yet, that's gonna come after. Right now, we're just in here in front of the board to try to create these 4 duplex lots, and then our next step would be to actually come up with a site design to get site plan approval for the duplex lots.
If you take that square footage from each lot where that MR30 line is, and you must have done that, can you tell me what each lot is, starting from left to right? You must have that.
So you're saying exclude the rear 50-foot portion out of that?
Where that
So-
dotted line is where your MR30 zone ends. Can you give me what the real square footage is of?
Yeah, so we did not calculate that actual square footage, but it would just be 50 by 225, which is a quarter of the 45,000 square feet. So I think that's what, 12,000 square feet? 11,000, about 11,000 off the top of my head.
So the bylaw says 30 feet,
Is it 30 or 35?
30. Well, now
What are we talking about? Excuse me?
When a zoning boundary bisects a lot, you can continue that use 30 feet into the other zone.
30 feet?
Mhm.
I believe it also references the more restrictive, you adhere to the more restrictive zone,
Right.
and the more restrictive zone here is the MR30 zone as compared to the conference recreation.
Well, I think the uses are compatible as far as, it's housing and it's allowed on both sides, but I don't think you need to go the 50 feet. But then you get into square footage for duplexes.
Right.
On square footage.
We need a 45,000 square foot minimum for the duplex. With a 100-foot diameter radius circle for the shape factor.
So you can't go back more than 30 feet and still have a duplex, can you?
Nope.
And, the zoning bylaw that's online, I hate to say that, for conference recreational, doesn't have anything about residence. We don't actually have a copy of the legal zoning bylaw, do we?
But that's not the one.
I do, oh, truck, I've got one.
It's just never been updated.
I have.
I've seen the conference recreational.
That's the
but I
CR.
didn't think it had any,
This is the, I think that's the updated one, brought that was passed at town meeting in 2010.
yeah.
Get my email?
That's CR, he's looking for the zoning bylaw.
You forgot me already, didn't you? No, I asked.
Do we have a checklist from David about the A and R plan? Supposed to give us a checklist of compliance with each item?
This is a kick in the face.
What you have there, Bob, is the change we made to the conservation and CNR to allow for different projects, different types of projects, where they were restricted just to certain things before.
There's no minimum lot size on this at all.
I don't think there is.
No,
That's for recreational. That's for.
MR30, you mean?
That's for CR zone.
Right, that's.
This allows you by special permit to change the zoning, but
Right.
if you don't do that, what's the zoning? It would be the underlying zoning for the area, right?
Yes.
And that would be single family past 30 feet beyond that lot line.
I'll get one copy of
So, single-family units are no good there, they gotta be duplexes, is that what you're after?
Well, we selected, two-family units there. Single-family units would have been 30,000 feet.
Right.
We made a decision to go with 4 duplex-style lots
Right.
as opposed to more single families.
You know, I'm just asking, a single-family along there, those 4 lots would work.
I can tell you that I'm not in support of duplexes, so I won't be voting affirmative for that in that area, in case that guides you in any way.
Well, I was just thinking to myself, single units work with the MR30. Now you're going to duplexes and you're into, we need 30 feet or we need 50 feet, and you start to walk an awful lot of lines there, you know? Just
We don't, we believe
curious.
we complied with the 45,000 feet in the radius, and then the zone, the more restrictive zone being the majority of the lot.
Right.
No, I don't think that's the way it reads.
Yeah,
It reads the, where your frontage is, and then you can go back 30 feet. Well, you went back 50 feet.
50 feet.
Really should have it.
Yeah, you know, I gotta,
You could do it if it was reversed, you could do it as a special permit.
what's that, Alan?
If the lot was in CR and you took 50 feet of MR, this board could do that because this is all special permit in the CR anyways. But you reversed it the other way, so now you have the problem that you have a zoning bylaw that says
yeah.
30 feet, you know, on the MR, going into CR. You'll have to figure it out. You're gonna have to go before the ZBA.
Buy one of these, 'cause the one online is
I
not.
think it's bullshit.
There's been many corrections made over the,
Yeah.
Well,
some of them correctly and some not.
You're still in your head, because all you can do is bring people to behave in a manner, poison. Everybody and their brother's gonna be living here.
Even, I think that's the most updated one.
1095.
Yeah, but the guy that does the maintenance involved in that property got a bad track record.
We just had a great little thing there, George Allen was, you know, with the 50 feet, taken out of,
I could get living
out
wild.
of the,
We won't put our hot rods.
MR would be easier. But going the other way, he said it's become a zoning issue versus a planning issue, so. I was giving my 2 cents that I thought, like, single families along there fit in and they're good. They were saying that they went with duplexes and they think they're okay with the
50 feet.
with the 50 feet, and I was agreeing, when Alan mentioned, I agreed with that theory, and I think now that's just a zoning issue,
It needs to go for a
Well,
zoning.
that line becomes,
The thing is, John, too, if we take it one step further, we're setting a big precedent there.
that's,
If it was one lot, it's one thing, but now we got 4. So if you take the area out, the third from all 4 lots, that's a lot of area that you're giving away.
well, that's. And this wasn't part of the original plan that they brought in for all that work that's going on. This-
Actually,
No, and
It was
think
initially.
It actually was way back. The first plan, nobody, yeah,
It was a road. It was not.
no, this originally was part of the original with the small lots. What happened was, I believe, I don't know if it was you or somebody else, engineering wise, never realized this was MR30 on Onset Ave. First time they came in, I remember distinctly, that we looked at it, and the comment was, you're building property under the CR regulation, you're listing it, but this is actually MR30, they didn't realize it
Because
originally
of-
came in. So that's when they went
Yeah,
back
and
and
it
redid
called-
everything again.
It called for a roadway
They had
and
put
things
two
like
roads.
that, parallel
Yeah,
roads.
roadway and also the
Right.
units all along here.
Is there a reason that you, took lot A4, that A4 is larger? Could you divide that up into the other lots to try to eliminate that 50 feet incursion into the CR district?
Well, it's actually, Mr. Chairman, the zoning circle,
It's the,
so it's the minimum depth that we need. So it's not necessarily the square footage, that lot, last lot towards, Lacasse, towards the west, was the leftover square footage on the frontage, dividing
But
up those
the
lots.
shape factor is negotiable.
Okay,
It's not, as long as we feel that you've met the intent of it, that
right.
we could grant some relief on that.
Well, we could reduce that and, even out that square footage again. On this lot, what we're calling 104 A4, is 59,588 square feet. So it's 14,000 square feet, larger than it needs to be, which we can, again, shrink the depths of the lots, ask for, relief in the zoning factor for the depths, and possibly meet that 30-foot max depth. So we don't use that 50-foot setback beyond the zoning line because of our shape factor in, the regulations book that I have in front of me.
You need the 50 feet to do a duplex.
The 50 feet, correct.
Yeah, but the first lot is almost 60,000, so if you,
But if you eliminate, you have to figure out if you eliminate 20 feet from each one of those lots, how much is gonna be square footage wise.
that's what I mean.
And you gotta take that total and subtract out the 14,000, surplus, whatever you're gonna have, and, divide it through to see what the net is per lot. As long as they come up with 45,000,
They don't.
you'll be fine.
They don't.
Have you done the calculation on what that does to the rest of the site plan?
In terms of shrinking the depth,
Or the 50-foot incursion, what's that do to the rest of your,
so, is there, can you direct me in the section that it has shown the maximum is 30
20
feet?
feet by
Do you have that section number? Or
Yes.
is
230.
Section 230? Thank you.
I think it's,
It's 12,000.
it appears that, Mr. Chairman, if your question was if we shrunk lot number
I
4
can't read it.
to just 225 feet of frontage like the others,
So that's 6,000.
that looks like it would reduce, it would be about a 4,000 foot per lot
Doesn't matter to me.
change. I'm not sure if I'm
Sure.
saying it the right
Support
way,
of it.
but if we
If
take
they
that,
even-
the area, that 14,000, roughly 14,000 square feet from lot number 4 and spread it amongst the other
People
three,
take an advantage. They want singles?
it'd be about 4,000.
Mr. Chairman, did we get anything from David going over this in the checklist?
no, I can't find any checklist,
Mr. Chairman,
other than,
can we just discuss this, section 230?
Yeah.
Just openly?
sure.
So it says verbatim, the regulations for the less restriction portion of such lot. So the less restricted portion would be the CR zone, correct? Am I interpreting that correctly?
No,
Special
Yeah, for
permit?
duplexes,
No.
it would be the,
With the
ADO.
special permit that you have in place,
The
the
CR,
CR zone,
the MR30 zone would be more restrictive with these guidelines.
right, so when I look at the two regulations for the CR zone for Bay Point and the MR30 zone, when I compare them side by side, the MR30 zone is more restrictive, so I don't know if that would apply with 30 feet. It would actually go the other way.
you're looking at putting in duplexes, right?
Correct.
multiple,
CR zone.
multiple residential.
Where's the CR? Where's
Yeah,
the,
45,000 feet, not 30.
Oh, okay, so we exceed, well, we exceed from.
That's like, why do they call it M30 if you need 45?
Well, that's what I'm saying is
The whole golf course out there, all houses. Make life easier, right?
where's your minimum lot area for a two-family?
Minimum lot area is 45,000 square feet for MR30.
Right. And where do you think the one for the
CR.
recreational is?
There is none.
There is none,
There is none.
right.
It's under special permit by the planning board.
So that's why I'd say most restrictive.
Because it's by a special permit.
Which to me makes it more
Looking at this,
restrictive.
it says NA,
Mhm.
use not allowed. For a one-family, there's nothing for any
Right,
other
that-
residential use not allowed.
So there's a special permit, I think Mr. Slavin can elaborate on, for that CR zone, that
It's written more in the zone,
the zoning,
that November 10th zoning for the CR, if that's what you're
there
referring
was
to.
an amendment to that for the CR zone
Yeah.
that allows, I believe, the developer to determine lot size, which again, we're under a special use permit and application, and we're gonna be in
Actually,
front
I
of
think
the
it
board.
allows the planning board to determine
Right.
lot
Correct,
size.
correct, which we've gone through the,
And the planning board hasn't given you a lot size, has it? Have
oh,
they
we
approved?
worked
No.
through that, I mean, it's not, again, we've been in front of the board several times, and.
We do not have our final
You don't have-
definitive plan, absolutely not.
So again,
Yep.
I say that
Yep.
there is no, the more restrictive lot is definitely the one on the back because it's not allowed at all. So the less restrictive lot is the one right along the street.
The
The
less
MR30.
restrictive is this, so you're saying, I'm sorry, you're saying the less restrictive is the MR30?
Yeah, you can't build in the back.
Unless you
But-
get a special permit. Unless you get
Right,
a
so
special-
how do we interpret that again? I know the special use permit was
Special permit was
Yeah.
designed strictly for CR landowner,
correct.
and you're really building on an MR land. I think you have to go the MR zone.
I,
You may have to get a determination from our landowner. Town council for land, I'm not gonna give you an answer.
is John still the counsel for that? Yeah.
It's Rich Bowen
Well,
and John work together.
Why don't we send it out and get a decision?
You're gonna have to, I can't give you an answer, I can't, I'm interfering, but you can do anything really.
Or just say no?
So Mr. Chairman, the permit for the back, they still don't even have that back yet, right? That's not done?
Well, that's,
We had-
public hearing is for, I think that public hearing is scheduled, right?
April 13th, I believe.
Yeah, I thought it was,
John,
first-
it has been submitted to town hall, because I know the board of selectmen got a set of plans. I believe the planning board had 3 or 4, maybe 5 sets came in
Okay.
last week.
So
Yeah.
so that hearing is yet to come.
That's
And-
it's the next meeting.
And forgive me for asking, but I'm gonna ask anyway. I know when the country club people had come in, God, it was a year ago, but then I was away for a year, so is this not the cart before the horse, or?
Well, the original plan showed a roadway and building lots further into the CR, and that's why you removed them, if I recall.
We removed a significant amount of units.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of our preliminary plans, an early rendition, had 20 homes or 20 some odd homes kind of
Along
along
Onset Avenue.
that ridge.
So I
But
believe,
they were gonna be on their own road that was gonna be inboard on the golf course side.
Right, it was going to be a new road, exactly.
parallel. with
And
Onset
that's
Avenue.
why they withdrew it, because it was
Yeah.
came under the CI
Right.
restrictions.
So, as I had started out earlier in the evening, when you first came to the table, I asked for your indulgence on some questions, and I guess the question was, one of them is now, that the homes that you had shown, you've now eliminated, and you're showing 4 duplexes.
Just four lots here,
All right.
yes.
Now, I don't know how close, where are the next houses, you know what I mean? Like, I wanna see
Oh,
what
on
the
the
whole
plan?
picture is in my mind.
Right,
you know?
right, well, we're here for, so again, for a Form A, lot, because we have public frontage. So we're here trying to comply with all the zoning regulations, so those lots haven't been created yet, so technically, I almost kinda run it concurrently here. So
Right.
the horse before the cart, I mean, we're just trying to get some frontage lots, constructed almost at stage 1 of the project by right. Again, they have public frontage, so we're trying to really kind of go by these, regulations that you have, the zoning regulations, to create the duplex lots, because I know our client really wants the duplex feeling. I believe these lots, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, they're actually gonna be fronting the golf course, is that correct?
Well,
Are we gonna?
they'll be cut in, excuse me, they'll be cut in from Onset Avenue.
Right.
But some of the floor plan views, if you
Be
will,
facing the golf course.
Looking the other
the
way.
back side of it, your deck will be facing the golf course, because your
Right.
driveway is on
So
Onset
it's
for
gonna
an
flow
individual.
the overall character of the design that we already have in front of the town for our definitive plans, which we're meeting in April for. So everything's gonna flow, and those duplexes are gonna face the golf course, which our landscape architect has landscaped the entire frontage of Onset Avenue, so you actually cannot visually see these duplexes. They want it to be mysterious, so they don't want you to see the golf course as you drive up along Onset. They want you to kind of get directed towards the front entryway and then come in down that long driveway and come in through the golf course side. So we're working with the landscape architect that we already have the plans in place to screen this, this area.
But there'd be 4 separate driveways into the 4 separate lots from Onset Ave.
So we're actually
Yeah,
proposing just,
for the 4 lots, they'll either be 4 individual driveways, or one of the things that we're contemplating is maybe 1 entrance and a common drive, if you will, for the
Split.
4. So they would just have easements on a common driveway.
For all
That
4.
way, we're not having 4 curb cuts
Just
off
one
of
curb
Onset
cut.
Avenue.
Yeah, but don't you think you should show that?
not for this, we're trying to just create the lots first. So we'll go in for site plan design. So again, I don't know really what we're going to do.
We don't have
at
the
this
fin-
point, just sketches of what we might possibly do. We're trying to get these lots created, approved, recorded, and then we'll take it, we'll work with the landscape architect, incorporate it into our final master plan, if you will, and then go into site plan, approval for
Okay.
the town.
That's fine.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I guess, listening to what's happened here and trying to catch up on this whole thing, I'm just a little concerned, if you don't mind me saying so, with this 50 feet and the encroachment into the different zoning aspect. Now, MR 30, in my point, if they put single-family homes in those 4 lots, I think that thing would be put to bed. But where they want duplexes, it makes it to 45,000 feet, which makes them go back the 50 feet into the next one. I kind of think we should ask council, what's that?
Just vote.
Oh, just vote?
I don't,
Oh, well, I was just wondering, legal-wise, I mean, you've been digging through the zoning, do you see any answer to that, Bob, or is that something, in my mind, maybe the lawyer should answer? Is it okay to,
I think they submitted the plan, you have to vote yes or no.
okay, sorry, then I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman,
They wanna come
take back
and
my
come-
question.
And give us some other information, they could do that, but I think we got the plan, you have to vote, and I assume it's been submitted a while ago, I don't think we've got any time.
Says 3-1 on the plan.
It was submitted,
About 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago, maybe?
to the planning department. the clock would start in the morning when this receipt is filed with the town clerk.
Okay. They didn't file this, they haven't filed this.
I don't have anything to that.
When did you file this?
We, these 4 lots, these
Yeah.
A&R lots, we present them to Dave, about 2.5 weeks ago, I believe it was.
Here we go again.
And he put us on this agenda.
Mhm. Did you get a sign off from tax collector by any chance?
Dave said that he was either gonna get it, or he said it wasn't required because we had just done it for the
Oh.
previous submission,
What is that?
something like that, I don't know,
I would imagine you did one for the larger property, so, but, I mean, the one that's with the packet is blank, that's why I
Yeah, that,
asked.
he mentioned that, cause I asked him and he said, no, that's all set because of,
Well, I'm gonna vote against it anyway.
we had submitted the other package just a couple weeks earlier.
It says that the CI zoning is 30,000 square feet, that's not correct either. And the filing is the filing under the clerk, the filing is with the zoning board.
Well, I guess let me ask you to explain to me one more time why you think that these lots can be formed, taking some land out of the other side. What is your reason?
We believe we comply with the MR30 zone, the 45,000 feet, the minimum 200-foot frontage, and that 50 feet that we've been discussing. We believe that the MR30 zone is the more restrictive, therefore that would dictate the zoning, provided that you don't build any structures in that 50-foot spot, which we would not.
Right. And why I was leading to have somebody answer the question, in my mind, it's the opposite. And here's why. If you're in MR30 along the front, along Onset Avenue, and you said, I want to make the 4 lots and put 4 single-family homes there, how big would the lot be?
Requirement's 30,000 feet.
Okay. Now you're saying you want the duplex, and you need to expand 50 feet into a piece of land that you don't have a permit for yet. So to me, that's the more restrictive, because you don't have anything yet. If you have MR30 in the front, you have something in your hand. You can come in, you can say, hey, I got something in my hand, I just want to put 4 single families there. You're coming in and you're saying to me, or to us, excuse me, everyone, I think we meet it with the you know, the more restrictive being the MR30, because it gives you some numbers. But yet, the piece of land that you want to kind of rob Peter to pay Paul, you don't have a permit on yet. We don't know what it's going to look like. So you're in essence, and I hope it doesn't come out wrong, but I want to get it off my chest. In essence, you're asking us to approve 4 lots, and we don't know what the next plan really looks like yet that might affect it on the other side. There might be a roadway there, there might be another lot, I don't know. You follow me? You're asking us to approve something, and then someone comes in and they go, well, geez, now April something, they're sitting at a hearing and they're showing all kinds of properties. Why'd you let them put duplexes there? You shouldn't have said they could use 50. You follow me? We're kind of the cart before the horse, or cart before the horse. So that's the dilemma I have, fellas.
This was integrated in the phase that we have submitted with the board, so the overall definitive plan subdivision that we have submitted was integrated within these lots and the overall layout. So again, it's part of the same property, Bay Point Club LLC, part of the golf course. So it's on the same property, it's just this piece of the golf course is within a different zone. So again, the overall, I guess, master planning, if you will, it was taken into account our future plans that we already have submitted with the board. So we can assure you that it does flow with the overall development that Bay Point Club is looking to do.
I can assure you that that plan hasn't been approved by the board.
It has not, correct,
Right.
correct.
That's-
No, I know you're concerned about jiving, but absolutely, so I know what you're saying about cart before the horse, but we just had, again, we have, public frontage on public roadway. We would just like to see what we can do to create frontage lots, Form A lots.
Yeah. You know,
I understand what you're saying.
Come in with a plan later, or come in with a different plan.
my two
So what you're
cents,
saying-
my 2 cents is
Right.
ask for an extension, ask for withdrawal, ask for whatever. I don't think you're gonna, my personal opinion, I don't think you're gonna get it. I think just take that one question is, let's see the big plan before we worry about the four that's out front. Yeah, you have MR30, you have frontage for singles. You don't have what it takes for the duplexes. If we had the other, if it, like you said, we're kinda running them side by side, well, where's the other plan? If we had two plans, we could work with you. I as an I can't speak for any of these other gentlemen, I can't rightfully give you 50 feet into another piece of land. I haven't seen what you're doing with the other piece of land yet. So in my opinion, that's the more restrictive. You don't have anything for that. There's no approval anywhere. You know, I mean, we were in the basement of the other building the last time I saw the golf course guys. Big tall fella came in, they had all kinds of houses showing. I said, oh, this is gonna be great. I got transferred out of town for a year. Now I'm back and I'm hearing, you still don't have a permit yet. So the cart's before the horse. So my personal opinion is, you can let a vote happen if you want, but I can't vote for it because I think we're putting the cart before the horse. It's probably, I'm gonna be probably your biggest advocate. You're probably gonna get it in the end maybe, but I think we should see the plan, kind of approve what's there, and then we'll worry about changing the MR30 to the duplexes for the 45,000 feet. That's just my personal opinion. Thanks for listening, Mr. Chairman.
I'm glad you,
Got that off my
that
chest.
you elaborated more about you going away for a year.
Do you wanna hear the whole story? It all started on a Tuesday.
So, Mr. Chairman, so we're confirming that the most that we can encroach into this, so I guess the board feels that the CR zone is the most restrictive. So that's,
Only me, I speak for me.
No, I think that's the consensus, that,
Okay.
okay. that's
I think
fine.
we'd all feel much better if this came in as part of the site plan review for the overall site.
So that you could see all of it
See how
blended together.
everything
We specifically
interacts.
took it out because these were 4 independent lots.
Right.
Well, you can do that as your,
So we thought, and I apologize again, we had felt that we did comply with the zoning because of the more restrictive aspect, and we had an attorney look at this and said, hey, I mean, again, in Massachusetts, is a Form A&R plan that you can do with an application, submit it, and by right, those lots, again, should be signed off on and created. So again, we had an attorney look at it, I know there's some discrepancies between the CR zone.
I'm
I
having
understand.
trouble with you saying by right, it should be signed off and formed.
It
How?
No, no, in Massachusetts, again, when we fill out a Form A,
Yeah,
which is an A&R approval not required, I mean, it's an acronym.
Right.
So, I mean, there's approval required, you guys have to sign off on it, but if we comply with zoning regulations, book 100%.
Which we thought we did.
Technically, again, there shouldn't be an issue, if you will, and I apologize for the terms, but,
oh, that's all
you know, we
We
had an
thought
attorney look at it.
We thought we complied
I
100%, and our interpretation of both the engineer and our council
Right.
was that the more restrictive zone was the MR30 zone. Therefore, that 50-foot encroachment, if you will, was not an issue and didn't preclude it from
Okay,
complying.
that's your engineer and your attorney telling you
Right,
that.
right.
But we don't have that in front of us yet. So my advice still is withdraw it, whatever, take the no vote. I don't know if you really want a no vote. I think you want to extend this.
I think we have to vote no.
Okay, if they withdraw it, you don't vote. I'm just saying, I don't want to see the guys get screwed up here for something that their engineer and attorney gave them some advice, and we seem to be sitting here as a board saying we disagree with the advice. So we vote no, and what does that do to them? Then they can't come back for anything else? I don't wanna see that happen.
No, you can always,
I think
always
Mr.
file a
Ch-
plan.
I think, well, that's what I'm saying, I think the chairman's was correct when he said we should include this as part of your big picture.
So for clarification, again, not to beat a dead horse, but if we had extended just 30 feet into the CR zone, then this application would meet your requirements?
I can tell you, I won't vote for duplexes.
Okay,
So if you want a single, I see good merit there.
okay,
But for duplexes, I'm a no.
okay.
If I could ask a procedural question, and I'm not sure it's proper that I do it, so I apologize up front. But if we withdrew the I think I have a pretty good feeling how the vote would go. If we withdrew, if we were to receive a no vote, that restricts us from coming back further, in the future?
That's a good question, and that's what I was asking the chairman.
Doesn't restrict them from coming back.
That would be if you were doing a variance, and you get denied, that's a different issue, but a Form A, you can come back, I guess, with
Okay.
another Form A plan.
That's fine.
And if we withdrew it, there simply wouldn't be a vote?
Correct.
Correct.
And we would redesign, resubmit, or submit the same plan, whatever,
Right.
at a future date.
Or you could submit it on April 13th when you come in for your site plan.
That-
When we open the hearing for the site plan.
So that would be so that would be acceptable to the board to do two at once, if you will, right?
Well, it would be part of that.
It should be incorporated in the plan.
Okay.
I'm just not an advocate of duplexes on that road, so regardless of what plan you put it on, I'm not in favor of that.
Okay.
I don't wanna mislead you.
Okay. No, I
I love
appreciate
your-
that.
I
I'm just,
love your
I
plan
just
for
wanna
your-
fully understand the
know,
procedural side of it.
I love the idea of what you're trying to do, but that's concerning to me, so.
Do we have the plan that's in the public hearing?
April,
You submitted the plans for the.
Yeah, February 5th, we submitted the plans to,
Yeah,
planning
and I think they're being circulated to the other agencies for comment and stuff.
But, so you can't really change those
Right,
plans, those are the plans that are gonna be heard.
right.
Those are the plans for the CR property.
Yeah.
Well, this
Are
would-
those final plans or preliminary plans?
final plans. Excuse me one second, sir.
Definitive.
With this, these would be, I'm sorry, if we were to resubmit this, this would be a modified version of this and not, it may be at the same time, but it wouldn't be part of that same plan set, because we have a different zone. So it would still be an independent 4-lot application, correct?
I kind of question it because it's part of the same parcel that meets site plan requirements. You know, it's over 30 acres, so it has, the entire project. So it does meet site plan requirements, so I don't know why it couldn't come in as a modification.
well, that's what I was thinking,
But that's,
you've submitted the plans, submit whatever you wanna do for this as a modification to it, and then when it comes in, we have both to look at. No?
I don't know if I agree with that, because they've submitted preliminary plans to us, which we made many comments on. So the plans that they've just presented, we've never seen. We don't know if they've decided to listen to our suggestions or not.
Gotcha.
So we don't know if that's gonna go forward. I worry, I think this is a separate issue. Technically, you have 4 lots on a road. So to include them with that other set of plans, and if those other set of plans are not approved or accepted for what they're proposing, now they've affected these 4 lots, which technically are buildable lots for single-family homes. So I don't know if I would include them, because they have zero guarantee at this point that their plans that they've submitted are acceptable. So
this
why take the
150
chance?
feet is not part of this district at all.
Right,
So,
Not part of the
that
district,
plan
but it's
really
part of the
can't have-
same parcel.
When they submit the plan, it's not gonna include this 150 feet from the street.
Right,
So
yeah,
there would have to be a separate plan.
Well,
our
it's got-
plans
it
do
doesn't-
not include
so,
any development on this,
right,
on this section of the parcel, if you will.
right. Other than the golf course updates, right?
Right.
Right.
The landscape
They-
Okay, but the golf course updates that are part of that big plan,
Right.
will they affect that 50 feet?
They affect the 50, but you might go back 30 from these lots.
For the duplex, and they went 50 versus 30.
Yeah.
So then, is it gonna affect the 30 feet that you're cutting into it? The question's still the basic one, and what's going on the land behind it that you're gonna encroach into? That's all I wanna see, and I don't care how you do it, I just don't wanna see you get a no vote, and then have some technicality later, say, oh, no, you can't do that again, so,
Right.
you know, you might wanna bring these back after the fact, I don't.
Just to answer your question, sir, that in that 50-foot strip, there is nothing,
Okay,
there's
Right.
nothing going on, if that's the right answer. There's no development or anything, that's just
Golf course.
grass,
Right.
which is what it is today. Yeah.
But it wouldn't be golf course.
Well, the overall 140 acres is the golf course, so it's a variation of,
It's moving.
depends where you hit the ball, I guess.
It's moving. Yeah, it's moving.
On the deck.
you're gonna need a big wall there, if I'm well, anyway.
I think the 150 feet is a separate submittal.
Right.
I don't think you can put it in the plan.
If subsequent to the approval of the final plans, and I'm being positive here, where there's now a special permit granted, would the board agree that that the MR30 remains the more restrictive plan? I'm sorry, zone?
To answer that question, just as an individual, without a legal opinion, to me, then the MR30 would be the more restrictive, because at that point, we've given a permit to something, and if you're telling me there's nothing there but grass, whatever, I'd have no problem at that point. The more restrictive would be that's my opinion.
Well, your special permit is not gonna comment on
I
these
don't
4
believe,
lots.
I don't believe that. I think the
Besides
special
which,
permit is still the more restrictive.
If the ones on the
because you need a
street are the
special
more
permit.
restrictive
MR
ones,
30 is a
you
right.
get no extension at all. You only
The
get,
other-
you
the
only
other
get
zoning,
30
John,
feet
is-
if it's the least restrictive one is on the street.
Right,
So you get nothing.
that's a given.
Yeah, I see, I have to have someone answer that.
See, I
for
don't
me.
agree
I'm
with-
looking at that.
I don't agree with
different.
that philosophy, John, that once if they get approval for their major subdivision.
But the
That
frontage on
still
the
is
street
the more
is in the
restrictive,
less
because they had to
restrictive
go through a
district.
more restrictive process, no matter what they get.
Okay,
The least restrictive, I think, is the MR30, because it's kind of a right.
that's a
I
given.
mean, if you came in here with 4 single families tonight, you'd be out of here in 4 minutes.
Actually, you could do 5 single families.
Yeah, whatever, but you'd be out of here, you know, so that's a very open and shut case, there's no
You know,
confusion.
actually, you're right, Mike, that, you know what, you
No matter-
corrected my thought on that. You're absolutely correct, because then the permit, restricted permit,
It's still
is
restricted.
still restricted, yeah, so, to answer your question, I changed my view on that. I think the permit that you're after as a whole would be the more restrictive, so you wouldn't be able to encroach in there
Oh,
with,
let's see.
so,
I have to-
oh, sure.
I said 5, I just went off square foot, I didn't look at frontage.
Things confusing enough now.
Well, I was confused because I thought they had their permit. And they don't.
The plan says they have, they don't.
Yeah, it's not allowed, but it's,
Okay,
what's the rest of them?
6 houses. Right?
Hmm?
Could put 6. Could put 6 out. I'm sure it's all great.
look at the,
I'll give it back to you. I got my other trucks, so my cases in my other truck.
You giving those out, Alan? No?
Who's that thing, election thing?
That Mike wants to borrow it, he'll just owe me a lot.
That's what I'm saying. 30,000 lots, no, I'm just saying.
Is your food still down here, or is it gone? Is your feeling still down the shop?
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing?
Like a CD. I need a new job.
Me too.
I just want the money you make from the one you got.
Wanna work with those next week?
Isn't he good?
I don't know, I mean, 7 years.
Yeah, me too, that's That's right. I don't do that.
well, what's your,
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were looking something up, I'm sorry.
well, I
sir.
would just check on the frontage to see if you could in fact get 5, but I can't, put my finger on that.
Okay, if I'm understanding correctly, and I'm getting, that there's likely a no vote here, I would respectfully request that we withdraw the application, and that way we can go back to the drawing board and resubmit either modified, changed, along with the other plan, subsequent to the other plan, which is the feeling I'm getting from the board as a whole.
And, I mean, you could come back with this, but we would advertise it and include it, bring in that public hearing in conjunction with the other one. But I think it would have to be advertised and posted separately.
Well, I don't believe this would be a public hearing for these A and R
If
lots.
it's a special permit, if you're encroaching into the CR, it's a special permit, which would require a public hearing, which we could do at the same time that the other hearing
I see.
took place, but where it hasn't been, proper notice hasn't been given,
Mhm.
I think we'd have to advertise it and bring it in.
So, Mr. Chairman, if it only encroaches, again, 30 feet, does that kick it to a special use permit?
Oh, if you could think you could shrink to 30 feet, then,
You don't meet the 45,000 square foot requirement. You need a special, something. For two family.
yeah, how are you gonna overcome that?
They just don't meet it.
We'd have to look into it.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to see again that the requirement with the 30-foot into the CRD as is the most restrictive. If we can come up with a duplex layout, would that kick it to special use permit?
I think the bylaw, I think that covers you there on the notation that you have that 30-foot buffer. think you're covered on that point. Anyone disagree? The bylaw makes an exception for
Up to 30 feet.
lots that are bisected by a zoning change, and they give you 30 feet, so I think we'd have to,
So regardless of a duplex or a single-family submission, if we comply with that 30-foot regulation, regardless of duplex, I know your vote, I know your vote.
well, if you
But
did, I
I'm
think you
just
could
saying by
do,
right, by the book.
I think you could do single family without any problem.
Yeah.
But the other one, you'd have to do some homework.
Well, maybe do single family now.
That's what I mean, you could do it,
But the thing is, they don't wanna do single
Were these
family.
8 units part of the 94 that you talked about at the last meeting, or are these over and above the 94?
No, the 94 is the other
Okay.
development. This is,
But you had said that these were part and parcel, so I thought maybe they were included in.
yeah, no.
You know, if that area is included, I don't know what you're planning on saying about that 50-foot strip. At this point in time, you can't build on it, so it's the more restrictive area. If you included it and you wanted the board to permit it as a less restrictive one, then you couldn't use any of the 30 feet, because your frontage would be on the more restrictive section. So you ought to look and see how you're treating that 50 feet, because you could shoot yourself in the foot there and get nothing. If that's not confusing enough, but.
Well,
I don't know
so
what
at
the
this
plan
point,
says about
you
that.
choose to withdraw.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that Michael's? No.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
Thank you for the feedback.
Do you want your,
wanna
Want
hang on
these,
to them just in case, you wanna bring them back?
I mean, I made notes on mine, but if you want these back.
No, that's okay.
No, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
The invoices on item E, I endorsed, and, I do need some signatures on these. I do need some additional signatures on these for everybody that voted on it. I don't know if Michael, I think you recused yourself on that
What?
one on Great Neck Road.
Correct, I had to. Anybody know what this is?
What's that?
Ed Ikabachi?
Oh,
Ed Ikabachi.
Ikabachi?
Real estate.
I don't think I saw that on our agenda.
No, that's a notification that it was, isn't that Town of
Oh.
Warren?
Yeah.
Town copies us their decisions.
George, the second one too?
Yeah, one's a covenant, one's the, say again, John?
I say we get a copy of Vaughn's decisions, but we can't get a copy of the checkoff list of stuff we get.
You know, it's normally in there, I don't know what happened to it.
I can't sign.
Eleanor Estates. What's this one for?
Eleanor Estates is a problem for me, I can't.
Yeah, that's, okay, you're out of here.
I won't be signing that as the clerk, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse
That
me.
one in the desert. It's all junkyard in the back.
There's a couple signatures we need there.
Like used to go to Rhode Island every day.
Discuss the meetings for April. We have a regularly scheduled meeting for April 13th, and then we have town meeting on the 27th. where it's the 27th, is the 20th a holiday, the building will be closed? There's a question mark, is Patriots Day a?
Or maybe they approved it when I was removed.
I have no idea. My chairmanship ends on the 7th, so.
Who's gonna be chairman after that?
On the 13th, we have a public hearing for, street acceptance for Bayshant Way and Lynn Road, and is there a third one?
Any update on that?
No, I'm just waiting for them to get their stuff done. Hopefully they'll be before you by then. If not, we may have to have a,
Didn't I see
Wait till
something there?
fall.
I suppose you can do a public hearing.
No.
You can't make a decision until they have it all done. So they may not make it.
Just wait till the fall. They're gonna get it.
This is, so has anybody had a road inspection done? Have you, the Board of Selectmen asked for one?
For,
Beaver Meadows?
no, we haven't done anything because we're waiting, the way it works is we have to wait for the planning board to give us, you go through it all, with, you know, if you're using Charlie, go through it, get all the specifications, and then come back to the Board of
So we
Selectmen
need,
with a
we need
recommendation
Charlie to go
accept it.
re-inspect that before.
But
Because
he was waiting, he was waiting to be notified by them that they
Right,
did the
they
work.
have, so we're waiting on them.
So,
Well,
we can't call
We're
him
waiting on
until,
February 23rd, they're saying they're ready, so.
oh. They said they completed their,
So they got all that done, all that rock and stuff?
I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so either, but.
We understand that a road inspection must be completed by the town before the April town meeting, and further understand that Beaver Meadows Homeowners Association will pay the required fee. We urge you to take whatever action.
But the problem is they, you know, they're waiting because certain work has to be done on the road and they can't do the work because of the weather, so. And before the planning board, I think last week or the week before, the selectmen know that,
None of these are dated.
before the selectmen also. So we basically couldn't go to any action.
I'll have Dave contact them and see what the status is.
I'm pretty sure there's nothing changed there.
And this has, the date of approval.
So on April 13th, we have the public hearing on the manufactured home affordable article.
Yeah, just to count the manufactured homes to their total affordable, doesn't affect their status or anything else. As far as any regulations for the homeowners of the manufactured homes, just to add the approximately 1,100 plus homes that are manufactured homes to our affordable totals.
On the 13th, we'll, excuse
Basically, a
me,
home rule charter request.
we have a public hearing on the street acceptance for those roads just mentioned, and we also are opening the public hearing on the Bay Point definitive plan.
For the CR zone.
And April 27th is town meeting. So that's, excuse me.
Mr. Chairman, I've got the planning board certificate of approval.
Mhm.
Is that dated today?
Oh, you didn't date it?
There's no date on it.
Yeah, I'm not,
They have 4 units, something else.
we have 4 families.
Yeah.
I'm not for it.
Is it supposed to be dated the day you approved it, or
What is it?
the certificate of approval plan?
What plan?
Yeah, I think it should
One of
probably be
those dates.
dated the date we voted it, correct?
Sometime. When there's no date, and then there's nothing on here about, how long they have to finish it.
In the approval, did you include the list of conditions?
Yes.
The first,
I'm looking at the format covenant.
in the order of conditions, there should be a 2-year completion date. Well, that's pertinent, huh? When casinos are too much of a good thing? That's assuming they're a good thing in the first place.
Yeah, a lot of dates and stuff need to be put in.
Didn't they have ground grape in the street shows
What
there?
opened it?
A casino.
Something.
Condition number 2,
No, today I think
on the date
MGM.
on which this copy of the
ceremony.
decision was filed with the town clerk. I don't really know what that is.
I went over that with him.
I don't gamble, so it don't make any difference.
And it was supposed to be 2 years from the approval,
Well, the air
2 year, from the, plus the 20-day appeal period.
This says it's 2 years from the date a copy of the decision is filed with the town clerk,
Mhm.
which is not, which will be,
So that may be why he didn't fill it in,
Tomorrow
because
or
he didn't know
something?
when he was gonna get the signatures.
yeah. So we need
So,
to fill that in.
so it would be
Approvals.
the 20-day appeal period from tomorrow, 2 years from that date.
Okay, no, this is it.
Well, what's Mr.
So we should have, today is the day we approve it.
What's Mr.
Well, it says that, yeah, okay, so this says that it was voted on February 23rd,
Mhm.
but this is,
Thank God.
should be today's date, shouldn't it?
Maybe we could hire someone that's not already working in the
Yeah,
system.
I would say,
Is it related to somebody, a friend or something?
That may-
Maybe we could hire someone with skills.
I know what
Just
today's
somebody
date
with
is.
skills.
March 23rd. Now, that will go,
Am I gonna laugh? Am I gonna laugh or?
So, just as a point of information, as I read the Form A bylaw, the plan gets submitted to the planning board,
Oh, here we go again.
and it gets stamped as filed. The planning board is required then to file it with the town clerk,
correct.
but the date in which the 21 days runs is the date it's filed with the planning board. So,
That's been going back and forth for the last 10 years. And the way we understood it
The
was the
21
day it gets stamped in.
appeal
because we've
period,
had
or the
plans come in.
21 day,
21 days from the date
It's,
filed
it's
with
accepted.
that's,
with the planning board.
yeah, that's the clock, starts the clock for
That's
an A
the
and R.
clock, it's not when it goes to the, when it gets filed with the clerk or anything.
What should happen is someone should go through the plans before they stamp it in at the planning board office.
Well, it's, the clock starts when it's submitted to the board, not the planning board office.
We went through that before, Josh.
Yeah, to the staff, that's right.
John Charbonneau, at one time told me, he says, oh, you guys are weeks and weeks late. He had some plan
Right.
up there for 2 months.
Right.
And then you guys got it for a meeting, and this guy's sitting there saying, hey, it's.
already late.
Because we was always told when it came in, because the mail clerk could stamp it in and accept it. Because we had stuff used to get mailed in, it would come on a Friday afternoon, and of course, the clock starts in that day. And of course, that's when the time clock starts. We went through that in the last 10 years.
The local engineers,
But is
the
it
two
chapter 81?
large local
I
engineers
think?
knew the
Chapter
system,
81?
They would
and they would submit it that way.
Statutes?
No, and they were
Your
approved
rules and
before we
regulations.
said yes or
I
no.
think,
Right.
but I think it's reflected in the
Constructive
statute that it's when it's filed with the board, not with the planning office. So when they come before us and drop it off, then the clock starts.
Yeah, well, that's not what we say in the bylaw. Although if you submit a plan and it's not complete, the planning board, this says the planning board staff
I
has
think
to.
he's just far away from it. Your mic.
Switch this off. This says when the planning board staff finds the application complete, it's considered filed. So, I mean, if you submit something that's not complete, the fact you submit it doesn't necessarily run the clock. Although then you're fighting about whether or not it's complete, but.
Because we've gone through that.
Well, I think that was the
Yes.
tweaking that John did to our rules and regs that put that little language about when the planning office deems it complete.
Right. But that, like when they said they submitted it, 2.5 weeks ago, we weren't under the gun on the time.
Because we've had, like I said, we've had them going at 4:15 on a Friday. They get stamped in by the mail clerk that they received it, and that's when their clock starts. So when it shows up 2 months later, they
Well,
look
we
at
also-
you, let you go through your motions. Like Mike tells the guy no duplexes here, it's a constructive grant, because it was already put in there.
It came about that, they'd come in like, this time of year with town meeting coming up.
Yep.
They'd come in
I'm with you.
the day after the April 13th meeting and drop a plan in the office with the town clerk. And then the next meeting would be town meeting, and possibly the next one after that, or it could be, especially October. You get Columbus Day, so we don't meet, and then you get town meeting.
Yeah.
You could, eat the clock up before we even see it.
Yeah, I don't know what the statute says. I didn't look at the statute, but I was just looking at the regulation, but as to whether the board has to see it to make it an official filing.
And I think the statute, is it
Didn't they put some
Section-
quads
chapter
up in
81?
the upper corner?
Or 80?
There's 5 more.
81, I think. I
81.
think the statute
They're just
reflects
trying to
that
get their
it's,
numbers.
81
So they
when
got
it's
numbers.
filed
Q or
with the
something.
Then they
board.
make this thing work. Yeah.
We all set, Mr. Chairman?
I believe so. Is there anything further?
Let's pay your cousin there, Frank. There was an invoice in there for.
You wanna pass the hat for him?
No.
Yeah, we'll put seashells and stones, cog shells.
Is this gentleman to see us?
He's,
That's Chris Schott from Wareham Courier. Your picture's on the front page as of now.
He's here for the entertainment.
So did you want to say something?
It's always fun when lawyers get in the front page. It's never good. Yes, we've been working with 3 towns, Rochester, Marion, and Wareham, on County Road, with the status of the road being worse than terrible. I met with, we have what we call MOP, which is an offshoot of SERPED, one of the groups which does basically all the TIPS, which is the the transportation improvement programs for the southeast region of 28, cities and towns that encompasses. So any road construction work for the state that's done for the towns and cities is done through this organization. They do the projects, approve them, put them on what they call a TIP plan, et cetera. Basically like the 6 and 28 project that was in fiscal year 2017. At the last meeting, which was I think last Tuesday, if I remember right, we were discussing things, and I brought up, as I'm one of the 4 selectmen that are members of this particular group, besides, Gatra and everybody else. I brought up the county road situation, and also that I've been talking with Marion and also Rochester selectmen about this. And as everybody knows, that road, as you go down the road, the boundary goes from one side of the road to the other. There are spots where all 3 towns come together at a spot in the middle of the road. And it's crazy, because you can't just go pave the road, because it's owned by 3 municipalities. And the road is worse than terrible. The projected costs with the MS4, stormwater management, control, drainage, et cetera, is probably $5 million on Wareham's share of the road. And since we only get a max of less than $1 million a year in Chapter 90 money, it would take us well over 5 years just to fix that road and nothing else. So at that meeting, we had the federal highway representative there, we had the state highway representative there, and I basically looked at him and said, help, how are we going to do this, because the road isn't safe anymore. So they took my information, and I got an email this afternoon that the state is going to look at taking the road over to fix it. The federal guy also chimed in on it, but the only drawback to it is the hearing and stuff that they have to do in order to put this all together is June 2nd or 3rd. They haven't set the final date. I was hoping they did really push this up well early, because it is really, it's bad enough that when it rains, it floods everywhere. It's not safe to drive through. The potholes are not too bad as long as you have a truck. If you have a car, you probably lose it. So at least we're getting some action. So that's just want to give you an update on that road.
It's a good road out.
Good road for a demolition derby.
Anything else, Mr. Chairman?
That's all I have.
Have we adjourned?
Care to make a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Would you like to discuss this?
We seem to be in a discussing mood this evening, but I'll pass.
All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned at 8:35, 9:35. Sorry, I was.